Though I'm using this color model to show you and demonstrate you the features, the functions are the same, whether you have a black and white phone or even the touchscreen model. So the four most important buttons are the ones near the bottom of the screen. The first one shows us the history of the calls. If I click on this one, I'm able to see the history of all the phone numbers that I've dialed, and by using the arrows to the right and left, I'm able to change tabs. So for example, the first tab is for all calls. If I go to the right, I can see all my missed calls, my placed calls, my received calls, and also any calls that have been forwarded to another number. And I can always press back to go back to the home screen. I also have a directory, so this is sort of a local address book where I'm able to add any contacts, even groups. So if I click on all contacts, I now have an add button. With this, I'm able to add a name for the contact, as well as their phone numbers for their office, their mobile, and another one. So clicking save is going to save this contact. Right now, we're just going to go back to not save it. The third button is the DND button, which stands for Do Not Disturb. When we activate this function, there's a little icon that appears on the top right of the screen, and this means that all phone calls that are received on the phone won't make the phone ring and will go directly to our voicemail. So we can deactivate this by clicking on DND again. DND is a useful function, for example, if you're in a meeting or you absolutely can't be disturbed. So this way, all your calls go to your voicemail. So let's talk about the physical buttons that are available on the phone. For example, we have our headset button, and by using this, we can either activate or deactivate the headset. We can use a wired headset or a wireless headset module. And then we also have our voicemail. So by clicking on the little envelope icon, we're going to access our voicemail.
Password.
The first thing that the system asks us is for our password, and our default one is 1234. Afterwards, it's going to present us a menu really similar to your cell phone's voicemail.
You have no messages.
So for example, if we had messages, I'm just going to lower down the volume by using the minus key over here. By pressing 1, we could access our new messages, 2 for accessing our folders, including our old messages, and then 0 is an interesting option because from there we're able to record our unavailable messages and any of the other types of messages. So for example, over here we could press 1 to record our unavailable message and then listen to the instructions. So this time I'm just going to end the call because we're not going to be changing any options. Now your voicemail, you're also able to get the voicemails by email. So if an email address has been added on your account for your extension, you'll get a copy of the messages as a sound file sent to your email address. We also have a redial button. By clicking on redial, we'll go directly to the history into the placed calls tab. I can go back or either dial a number. So let's talk about what happens if we get a call. I'm going to go ahead and use another phone to call us up. So there you go. I'm going to pick up the call. And now you'll see the buttons have suddenly changed on the screen. We now have a transfer button, a hold button, a conference button, and an end call button. So pressing on the hold button would put the person on hold. This means that they'll hear some music. By default, it's VoxSun's music on hold, but you can also personalize this and customize this with your own company's music. And then if I want to take a call back, I just simply click on resume. I'm also able to put someone on mute by clicking on the mute button. This will appear in red, and that means that the microphone will be muted. So this is a useful option if we just need to ask a question to a coworker for a few seconds, or we're going to come back to the client really quickly. We also have the transfer button. At VoxSun, we have 2 ways of performing a transfer. We have something known as an attended transfer. That means we can talk to the other person before transferring the call, and a non-attended transfer, which means that we're going to transfer the call without talking to the person receiving the transferred call. So I'll show you how to do both. It's really easy. Let's say we'd like to transfer this call. We click on transfer. I'm going to type in the extension of the phone, for example, 401. And if this is an attended transfer, that means I want to talk to the person before. I'm just going to wait. My phone now rings. I could pick this up. And now I would say, for example, well, are you able to pick up this call from a client? If the person would say yes, I would click on transfer. And if no, I could end the call. So let's say the person has said yes. And by clicking transfer, these 2 other phones are now in contact without having this phone intervene in the conversation. So I'm going to hang up the phones, and I'll show you the other way of doing a transfer, which is a non-attended transfer. I'm going to go ahead and call our extension again. And now I'm going to click on transfer. I'm going to type in 401, and now I'm going to click on transfer the second time right away. So this way now our other phone rings, and this phone is no longer aware. So for example, if the person extension 401, in our case, wouldn't have replied, the other caller would have gotten their voicemail because we're not supervising this transfer. Perfect. So let's go back. I'm going to call this phone again. So now we have other options. The conference button allows to add a third person to the call. So to use it, it's really simple. It works the same way as a transfer. I would click on conference. I would dial the extension of the person I want to add, or even an external phone number, for example, a cell phone or a 514-450 number or 416 number. And then to merge the calls, I would click on the conference button again. As well as with transfers, we can also transfer calls to any external number, not on the extensions internally. So now you might wonder what happens if we get a second call while we're on the line. The way how it works is really easy. It's just like a cell phone or a smartphone. Let's go ahead and call this extension from another phone. We now have a little line that says that we have an incoming call, and we have two buttons, answer, reject. If I answer this, this automatically puts the other person on hold and takes this call. If I were to press reject, it would automatically send this call to the voicemail. Once we have more than one call on the phone, we see this little scroll bar appear. That means that we have multiple calls, and we also have a call counter up there. So we see we're on call number 2 out of 2 calls total. By using the up and bottom arrows, I'm able to navigate between the different phone calls. So for example, if I go up once, I see this is the call that's automatically been put on hold, and I see this is call 1 out of 2. So I could easily resume this call by clicking on the resume button. And then afterwards, I could easily swap between these calls just by clicking on swap. So for example, we're on the first call, I click on swap on the second call. So we're able to talk to one person, but we're able to have many phones at once on these phones. So the important thing to understand is to navigate up and down with the arrows to see different calls. And then if you want to end a call, I could even go and navigate to the call that's on hold and end that one. And then when I'm done with this one, I could end this one or simply hang up. All of our phones also have these buttons on the side that we can customize. For example, in this model, we have 10 buttons total, 5 on each side. And on our T41 model, we have 6 buttons total, 3 on the side. So each one of these phones work in the same way as before. So we can go ahead and click and hold on a button to customize this. So let's say I wanted to assign a number to this key, a speed dial. I can press on hold just like I did. And now I can select the type. So for example, in the type, I have to use the right arrow to navigate to speed dial. We leave the account at line 1, and in the label, I can label this whatever I want it to appear on the screen. So in this case, for example, I can configure a vendor or a provider that I call often. In this case, I'll just configure this a button for calling a VoxSun. So now I simply have to compose the letters by pressing on the keys multiple times. And then in the value, so I'm going to press on the down button once, I have to type in the phone number. Now when configuring these keys, we absolutely have to always add a 1 before the phone number. So for example, 1-514-600-0155. If I were to dial a number normally, I don't need to add a 1. I could either add a 1 or not, wherever I'm calling, because with VoxSun, you get unlimited calling throughout the United States and Canada. Once I'm done configuring this button, I click on the save key, and this saves the button. So this means that if I wanted to call VoxSun, I would simply press this button, and automatically it's calling, and we get the main menu. And this is a call just like any other, so I'm able to transfer it, end the call, or do whatever I'd like with it. Next up, let's talk about call forwarding. Call forwarding is a useful feature if we need to receive an important call while we're away from the desk, or for example, if we're leaving for lunch or a break. So configuring call forwarding is really easy. We have to click on the menu key, and now I'm going to navigate to call features by using the right arrow and click on OK. In the features menu, we need to go into call forward by pressing the OK key, and then always forward by pressing OK again. So now, by using the right arrow, I can enable forwarding, and I have to put in the phone number to which we want to forward a call. Just like the side buttons, we always have to add a 1 before the number. So for example, 1-514, let's say this is my cell phone number. When I'm ready to save this, I hit on the save key, and because we enabled this, the call forward is already enabled. I'm going to go back so that we get the home screen. And in the home screen, we see a new icon appear, a little arrow. This means that call forwarding is enabled. Whenever someone calls this phone, it's going to forward it to the 514 number that we just configured. And then in disabling the call forwarding is really easy. On this model of the phone, we have a transfer button. So by hitting this button, it's going to disable the forward. Next up, let's talk about call forwarding. Call forwarding is a useful feature if we need to receive an important call while we're away from the desk, or for example, if we're leaving for lunch or a break. So configuring call forwarding is really easy. We have to click on the menu key, and now I'm going to navigate to call features by using the right arrow and click on OK. In the features menu, we need to go into call forward by pressing the OK key, and then always forward by pressing OK again. So now, by using the right arrow, I can enable forwarding, and I have to put in the phone number to which we want to forward a call. Just like the side buttons, we always have to add a 1 before the number. So for example, 1-514, let's say this is my cell phone number. When I'm ready to save this, I hit on the save key, And because we enabled this, the call forward is already enabled. I'm going to go back so that we get the home screen. And in the home screen, we see a new icon up here, a little arrow. This means that call forwarding is enabled. Whenever someone calls this phone, it's going to forward it to the 514 number that we just configured. And then in disabling the call forwarding is really easy. On this model of the phone, we have a transfer button. So by hitting this button, it's going to disable the forward. And this phone is smart. The next time when you want to re-enable the call forwarding, it's going to remember the number to which you forwarded. So by clicking on transfer again, we don't need to reconfigure the number. It simply appears. If you're using other models of the phone, such as the T41, the enabling or disabling call forwarding must be done through the menu. So we're going to go on menu, go again to call features, go to call forwarding, always forward, and then simply press on the right key to disable call forwarding. And so once we save this and we go back to the main screen, we can see that the call forwarding icon is now disabled. As you might know, all the feature codes are included in VoxSun and there's no fee for using it. So the first one that might be useful is anonymous calling. If we dial *67 before a phone number, the other person receiving the call will see the call as an anonymous call. So that might be useful. I'm just going to cancel this call right now. The other start code that's useful is to pick up a phone that's already ringing. So let's say I'm sitting next to a colleague and his phone is ringing. And I don't want to pick up their phone, I just want to pick up my own phone. There's a special start code, which is *21, followed by the extension number, which we're able to pick up a ringing phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up the other phone. So let's say I'm going to call up extension 403. Our phone is ringing. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to dial *21 403 and press on OK. And suddenly we just picked up the call that was ringing on the other phone. So this is also really useful because we don't have to run around the office, for example, if another phone is ringing further away. The other thing is that we could also configure this as a speed dial. For example, if there's a phone that we constantly pick up, you could simply configure a speed dial as *21 followed by the extension. And then the other useful function with start codes is call parking. So to transfer a call, I could either use the transfer button, but let's say I'm alone in the office, I need to transfer a call to another phone, but it's going to take me a while to get to there. So I want to make sure that the call doesn't go into the voicemail. I can use call parking. Call parking is the same as putting a call on hold, except that any other phone is able to pick it up. I'm going to go ahead and call up our phone. And now let's say I want to place this call in the parking lot. So I'm going to dial #2. And now this is going to put the call on hold. So the other person is going to hear music, and on here, we're going to hear in which position we parked the call. So for example, this is the first call that we parked, it's going to be position 1. And we see this call has disappeared from this phone. This means that we can go to any other phone on the system and dial *22 followed by the number, position number of the call. So this one, it's going to be 1. So *221, I'm going to call the phone. And now I just picked up the call that was placed in the parking lot. And this is like just any other call, so we could transfer it, put this on hold, put this in conference, or simply end the call. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you learned some new tips and tricks on how to be more efficient with your phone and your new VoxSun phone system. We hope that you enjoy it, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact our support department by sending a ticket to support@voxsun.com. Thank you.